like I'm really back here.
All right, guys, we are back. Hello, we are back. Now we finished the workout, we've done the yoga cool down, and we are beginning our panel talk with guests Dr. Diana Gutierrez, Allison Desir, and Kelly Samuels. These are three women that have inspired me personally and are doing some. She's such a goof. She's doing. I'm blocking you out of this way. Doing some cool stuff in their communities, which we will talk about in a moment. So just hang tight. All right.
What do you think you're gonna want to be?
What do you want to?
When I grow up, I want to be like him.
If this is gonna throw you guys off to have that there, just ignore it. I will. All right, everybody. Do you want to start with a toast if you would like, a mimosa or some champagne? Cheers.
Shout out to all the real New Yorkers.
This is how we do it.
Hey, old school New York rent prices.
Okay, so just a little introduction. This is there we go.
Roots.
I'm really.
That's how it's
So the panels. Obviously, we're keeping it super short and informal. We're all on a couch and on the floor. So basically, I'm just going to give them a few seconds to introduce themselves and ask questions. I'll do a quick introduction.
Yeah,
so there we go.
intros.
So we have Kelly Samuels, farthest over here. This is Kelly. She owns a women's professional racing team, cycling team called LA Sweat. And they have an amazing record. How many years running now? 5 years running. And if you guys know anything about cycling in the sport, it's exceptionally hard to have a pro team. So the fact that she has been running this women's pro team for 5 years now and was one of the first really to be out there.
Yeah, doing something different.
Doing it yourself and
for sure.
like entirely on her own from her own idea, her baby. So Kelly, and she's visiting us from Portland, although soon to be
Boulder in a week.
Oh, wow.
And we have another hometown hero here, Allison Desir. She is a founder of the Harlem Run Club,
Wow.
And also the big thing that everybody likes to talk about is one day she woke up and decided she was going to run from New York to DC to raise money for Planned Parenthood.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
and she ended up raising over $150,000.
Yeah.
So,
How bad were your feet after that? Your feet look like this?
They've been better.
Yeah.
It's my masseuse right here. My husband.
yes.
My
I'll
friend
let
from
you
home.
guys ask a few questions about how that came to fruition from the baby idea to the actual event. And then we also have Dr.
Thank you.
Diana Gutierrez over
People
here.
think I work in the kitchen in the hospital sometimes, so I gotta make sure, because I work hard for that title.
That's right.
Hell yeah.
Thank you. Yes,
She got her MD in Cuba
Mm-hmm.
and then moved back to her hometown, Queens.
Represent.
Yes, and doing her residence now. And she's started a group called Medi Latinas, and they organize women of color to give back to the community and women with medical backgrounds, right?
To an incentive to, go into that field. We need more.
Got it. As mentors.
Mhm.
Got it. So, so these are women who have started their own thing with basically very little assistance.
Nope, that's not
more or
gonna
less
work.
doing it on their own. Kind of the way that this event has grown. The seed of this event started with, I had a little bit of budget from Under Armour last year. And I was like, how can I use this to give back to my community? So I wanted to do like a free workout event where everybody could join. And then I was like, what else? Like I wanted to raise money for Girls Inc. I raise money year round through Patreon. And I wanted to have like a party to give thanks to those who have contributed. And then also to raise some extra money from the interwebs. So that's the live stream component. So how it comes to fruition from a little baby idea to this. And this year we're doing it entirely without any sponsorship. There is no monetary backing for this. And we still managed to make it happen. And it's bigger than last year, which is even cooler. So yeah, thank you guys for being a part of this. And So I just wanted to ask each of these ladies a quick question of like, when you saw the need, how did you come up with your idea? So,
I'll go first. Oh, great, thanks. So I started cycling and racing in Southern California, and there's a huge gap between just starting out and being new and being professional, and there's no guidance in between, which gives no opportunities for women to be seen by the big, huge, like worldwide teams. So I saw all this talent and nowhere for it to go. So I just kind of was like, had my own sponsors from racing individually, and luckily I have amazing companies that I work with, and when I told them what I wanted to do, everyone signed up. So I got really lucky in that sense, but it also is, more than a full-time job that I say, like, it's a full-time job that doesn't pay, which doesn't really matter to me. Like, people always tell me, like, don't invest your own money in this, like, it's a waste, or it's, you're gonna screw yourself over. And my theory is like, I can't imagine not giving these women these opportunities. So to think about not doing it makes me like way more sad than the thought of like failing, and at least trying.
Allison.
Yeah. So for me, I'm going to start my running journey because it sort of makes sense that way. But I started running in 2012. I was going through a period of depression, didn't have a job. My father was very sick at the time with Lewy body dementia. And so I was at home all day, like on the computer, looking at everybody live their best lives on social media. And I saw one of my friends was training for a marathon. And he wasn't your typical marathoner. He was typical marathoner. He was like 6 foot, 240 pounds, black guy. So that sort of stuck out to me. And I followed his journey, and he completed the marathon and raised money for a nonprofit. And I started thinking about, I was reading a book at the time by Dr. Phil, which I do recommend. And it talks about if you want something in your life to be better, you have to put your life on project status. Like you can't keep saying, I'm going to paint the house, right? Because you'll never paint the house. But if you're like Saturday morning, I'm waking up at 9 a.m, I'm getting all my girls, and we're going to paint the house, we'll be done by 2, you'll finally paint the house. So Dr. Phil's metaphor and this guy running the marathon sort of came together, and I decided that was going to be my project. So little by little, as we all know, fitness sort of like reawakens you. So I rediscovered a sense of discipline, started feeling better about myself, and I ran my first marathon and raised $5,000 for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. So from the very beginning, this idea of running was linked with mental health and linked with a give back component.
That's the cancer my brother had.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. So I decided I have to share this with my community. I felt like I had discovered running and like nobody else knew about it. So I decided, right, I'm this genius. Like I am the chosen one. So I was like, I'm going to bring this back to my community in Harlem. And I started actually 5 years ago next week. Started in November, and nobody showed up for 4 months. Every Monday I was showing up, like excited that folks would be there, and nobody was there because who was I, and like nobody cared. But people were watching. And like 6 months later, my now husband Amir showed up. Within a year, 150 people were showing up. And it was this really vibrant community that was not just about the running itself, but about the vulnerability, about mental health, about being together. So naturally, after the election, when I felt like I sort of like felt kind of helpless, I turned to my community to do something. So came up with the idea that I would get to the Women's March by foot. So we would run, I decided I'm gonna run 250 miles from Harlem to Washington, D.C. So I'll get there for the Women's March. And I put the idea out there, and there was also the fundraising component, which was $44,000 for Planned Parenthood. So in my mind, I was like, which is more difficult, 250 miles or $44,000? But what I found was that it really tapped into a lot of people's sense of helplessness, and the idea that running could be used for social change. People all over the country and all over the world really grasped onto that idea. And before we knew it, like the campaign had gone viral, and over 1,000 people joined us along the way. But so all of this to say that what things that I've built have started honestly from a very personal place, but it was the community piece and the the sense of vulnerability that I think really has propelled what I've done forward.
Yeah.
I'd like to point out that I was so captivated by the story that I actually forgot the question. Who's gonna play you in the Lifetime movie? It was something about why we started.
Yeah,
right?
like how you went from
It was something
idea.
like that. Oh, that's good.
How you went from idea to action.
Idea to action. I do so many things. Let me see. All right, so I'm part of an organization called Medi Latinas. I want to give a shout out to my wife though, right there, real quick. You know, good babe. And so I think as a woman of color, I'm from the hood. I literally was born underneath the 7 train, so was my wife, not at the same time. We don't see people of color, especially at all in the medical field, and being, first generation Colombian American, parents don't speak English. That's it. Just having to deal with, their health issues and having to be like their translators since I was like 7, sort of having to navigate and make their health decisions and seeing my community not understanding things because you can't communicate. Your physician doesn't look like you. It's awkward. It's weird. You know what I mean? So it's been a long journey. Long story short, just randomly in Cuba, I saw Afro Latina with a bun. She had like that New York City bun. She had one? No, she had that New York City bun. That one right there, that bun right there. She had that bun, and I was like, oh, she's from New York. So we went up to her. That bun.
That's the bun.
New York City bun. So I went up to her and started speaking English. She ended up being actually a Dominican writer from Williamsburg. Her name is Nelly Rosario, who also teaches at Williams College. We just sort of linked up, kept communicating, and then she linked up with another Dominican from the Bronx, who her name is Dr. Sandra Placido, who went to Harvard undergrad, or the other way around, Yale, PhD. Anyway, she's a doctor of Latin studies. We sort of linked up, drinking a little, and started freestyling. And then we started to think, the 3 of us are like three prolific, powerful women from the hood. You know what I'm saying? All reached, some level of education all on our own. While supporting our family. So we thought, what we should do is represent, the past, the present, and the future of sort of activism in medicine. So I can't say doctor because I'm very tired. So Sandy from the Bronx, who teaches also at Queens College, the PhD, she did her PhD on a Puerto Rican Columbia-trained physician named Ana Livia Cordero, who apparently worked with Malcolm X, lived in Ghana, was the neighbor to Maya Angelou. There was a lot of activism in medicine back in the 60s. So she did her PhD on that, and she sort of goes into that story about how, I can't even tell you because it's so complicated, but it's an amazing story. I'll link you all to that. Then I would represent, I guess, the present part of medicine, right? The sort of the intense mentoring that I do. I mean, my wife can attest to the fact that I will talk to any particular young women, especially in the science field. I will drag them. I will call them at whatever time. I allow them to call me at whatever time, and I'm just pushing and dragging and just sort of letting them understand that it's going to be hard. It's going to seem obviously impossible, but we made it. You know what I'm saying? And so with that, and then the future is Nelly Rosario, who's writing a book, has already written a book, but is working on a book about the future. Sort of an island where people can go and have medical procedures. So we do this panel thing. We go to different universities. We talk to a lot of young women. And so with that, I think that is important for me because I need it. But sometimes I'm over it. How many times do you hear me say I'm over it? Didn't I tell you today? I'm over it.
She worked all night long. She got off work
it's over it. American healthcare system. I'm over it. But then when I speak to these women and they're so intense and they're so I can do this and I want to come back and I want to be able to really just sort of connect with my community, then I'm energized. Or even when I'm in the hospital and I have to deal with BS paperwork and this and that, I just leave and I go to my patients and I chill with them. And I realize, this is why I'm doing it. When they're grateful, when they're thankful, when they're like, thank you for writing all these prescriptions in Spanish so I don't have to Google translate this in Spanish. And thank you for this and that. So that's really where I'm coming from. So just helping with this organization, helping to sort of let people see that we exist. I'll go to the hospital with my coat and my doctor badge and I'm wearing Tim's. You know what I mean? I think we also need to change sort of the idea of what doctors look like because people think that doctors look. Well, y'all know what doctors look like. Yeah, I'm not even gonna say it, but it's a white man with blue eyes and a tie, and then I'm walking around with all of this doctor gear on, and literally people will be like, "Hey, for lunch, I'd like the soup," and and it's a thing. It doesn't upset me, but it's natural. People, we really need to change the the imagery of what physicians look like around women, all women particularly, because as you know, research has shown that if your doctor is a woman, you live longer. I'm just saying. So that's where we're at.
Something that Diana just brought up. Sorry, I still call her Dylan a lot of times because back in the day when we used to be hood rats and ride fixed gear bikes, that was her name.
You know it.
But and you come along with it. You're a doctor now. But something that Dylan brought up, or Diana brought up, that the having Medi Latina as the organization helps her keep the fire. And I think when we're alone and we want to see a change happen and we don't reach out to our community, it's really easy to let that flame or that spark just die. Because when you're alone, you're just like, what can I do? Like, I'm only one person. I can only raise this much money. I can only do this much change. I can only talk to so many people. I don't know, people in power. I don't know, like it's easy to feel helpless. So that's why, for me, starting my YouTube channel, I think was something that gave me accountability. It gave me a community. It was something that worked for me. And now I'm using that as a way to push for change and organize all of you lovely people. Like, you guys all came through because of emails that I had through last year's event, because of the channel, because of my social media. So I use social media, but everybody has their own way of doing it. Kelly uses the sports world and her team, and Allison uses the Run Club, and Diana uses her organization and her patients and her community. So now that we've done these intros, since we're keeping it short, I'm going to just say, does anyone have any questions?
Is anybody still donating?
Did anyone
money?
write down? Yeah,
somebody did. No, we got more money, right?
Donations are still coming through.
I feel like I need to do those burpees because somebody sent $100.
Yeah, actually, you want to do 3 burpees real quick for us?
Not me.
Hey, who's doing it? We just got a $100 donation, a $5, and a 20 pounds. 20 pounds. What does somebody do the math? What is that's like $40? Shout out. Thank you guys for still giving money to Girls Inc. We are very grateful. That's the cause, my cause that I've chosen. When I was choosing one, I chose Girls Inc. because it's nationwide and because my audience is worldwide. So I was trying to find something that would be applicable. It's hard to find worldwide women's organizations. And I went with Girls Inc. because it was, I went and did a local visit in South Central LA. So I got to see, I got to see their program at work in South Central, and it was like really inspirational. And these women, the women running the in-school program were such good teachers. Like, they were with a bunch of, I want to say they were 9, I guess 4th grade. What is that? 8, 9, 10? 10 is 5th grade. Anyway, they're reading a book and they get to a word that they don't know. And me not having any experience teaching children or raising children, I would have been just like, that word means blah, 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 like just tell them. But they had the very they were like, remember what is when you do this with your friend, it was very like explain and then let them define the word themselves. And it was just like such a transformative moment for me watching that. It was like, this woman is facilitating these girls to teach themselves. Mm-hmm. And that is such a powerful thing.
That's a nice one.
Like when, So anyway,
can I highlight something that you said that I think is really powerful? That particularly with like folks like you, Kim, right? You have like a bajillion followers on Instagram. Like I think that for average people, we could sit at home and be like, but Kim has access to so much. Like it must be so easy for Kim. And what I love about you, like when you reach about this and things in general, like you're a real human. Like you put this together because it's important to you. And sometimes, like when we think that other people must have all the resources, have all the connections, it stops us from doing what we can do with what we have. So I always like to remember, one, social media is super powerful, but don't be fooled by what you see, right? Because all of us are just some normal ass people trying to make money, trying to survive, and trying to do the best that we can. So like maybe my image of Kim Nonstop is from, what I make up in my head is very different from like Kim Nonstop, who's like a dope human who's invited us here, the owner of this space who's welcomed us into this space. Like, I'm sure raffle items were donated. We've all, like, I brought my people. So it's like, it's really think grassroots when you want to start something. Don't think about what you don't have. Think about what you do have.
Mm. Oh, who is playing?
And that's it.
I mean, just personally, Kelly is doing something I've been wanting to do for years, which is have a women's team. And like, I know Kelly's not independently wealthy. She didn't just go out and buy, you know, and she didn't just go out and buy 12 bikes for 12, you know, and stuff. Like she hustled and she found sponsors and, you know, she strong-armed them and shamed them into saying, hey, there's not enough women out there. Like, what are you going to do about it? And so, yeah, I mean, it's deep. I don't know what else to say.
I mean, like, for me, one of the things that like really drove me to do it was I had these sponsors like for myself, and I was doing my own thing and it was great, but there was like a part of me that felt really selfish. Like, why am I getting all this stuff? And like, why are I see so many other women that are like working super hard and they're succeeding in their own small ways. And I was just like, it felt bad to like keep it all for me. And so like when I started the team, I wanted to do something different. I was really sick of seeing women's teams mimic men's teams and how they're run. Most of them are run by men. And you would see like co-teams, right? So you got a men's team, you got a women's team, and they share a budget, and the people in charge are splitting the budget like, oh, here's 10% for the women, and here's 90% of the budget for men. And in Southern California, most of those men are rich and old and racing for fun on the weekends. They're not like trying to succeed in the sport or like become professional. So I get asked a lot, actually, like, are you ever going to do a men's team? No. Sorry. Like, there's so many men's teams out there, so many programs that have so much money. I work in sports marketing. I work in the industry. And it's like, I see brands just writing checks to these teams. And I'm like, there's like 10 women's teams over here folding every year because there's not enough funding. And if the one little thing that I can do is like provide 10 women a year to race around the world, I'll work 10 jobs to make that happen.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions for them?
I'm just curious how long it took you to run the 250 miles.
So it turned into, because we had such an outpouring of support, it turned into a relay. So we left January 18th at 6 p.m. and we had this like massive Excel document where people were signing up to run legs of this. What's funny is we didn't know any of these people, so we were sort of like, hope they show up at like 3 a.m. But it was amazing. There were like 4 key women that were part of it, and we had a van that was trailing us. But along the road, I mean, we'd look out and there'd be like a whole like 20 women on the side of the road waiting to meet us at 3 a.m, right? Yeah. So then we arrived 6:21 a.m. on January 21st, the morning of the women's march. Yeah. Yeah, so 60 hours.
Yes.
But I mean, the whole point of me having them speak is that I wanted you guys, because I know everyone in this room has some kind of idea of what the changes they want to see in the world or in their community or in just your daily life or whatever it is. Maybe it's how you're perceived or what who you want to organize with or how you know. Sorry if I'm not being very eloquent. I'm also tired.
You want to ramble?
Yes. But having this, if this is a spark, or if this adds to a spark, or if this fans any flames, I'm using a lot of flame analogies because I just came from California where everything's on fire. But, you know, if you guys want to ask any more questions now, or if you want to just continue to mix and come up and talk to us and share your ideas, I highly encourage you all right now to just like create community, speak to each other.
I also had something else. I also encourage every single one of you to mentor, which is what all these people are doing. And that could just mean, I mean, don't snatch anybody off the street and be like, yo, let me mentor you. Be receptive to the women around you, because you can even be mentored by somebody younger or mentor somebody older. You know what I mean? Don't limit yourself and make that connection. Like, yo, I dig you. I really need you to mentor me. And let that energy, you know, don't just be like, yeah, she's my mentor, but yeah, no, use that word. So that there's like sort of like that verbal agreement. Even if you just mentor one person. I mean, you never know what kind of shit that person could turn into with your energy. And it really bounces back, because sometimes I'll be telling my mentees, like, I'm gonna need you to network and wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and then I feel guilty because I'm like, damn, I need to be doing the same thing. So really, mentoring is kind of selfish.
Full circle.
Exactly.
And you're accountable.
Exactly. So that's a better word. Thank you.
I actually have a question. You brought something up that I think it hits a lot of women. So there's when you talked about like the medical field is all
She's hiding
like
from the government.
is largely controlled by white males, cycling similarly. But then there's like this glass ceiling that everyone knows about that basically makes it like harder for women to effectively do what they want to do. But you mentioned something else, which is you felt guilty.
Yeah.
When
Good point.
Okay. Sorry.
when you started receiving money, or maybe someone brought it up like implicitly, but social media, like maybe people think that social media as a platform has like a negative connotation, even though that's been an amazing way for women to get their voice heard. Like if you look, the majority of like influencers, quote unquote, are women.
Yes.
Like wonder why people speak about it in a derogatory term. But like, how do you deal with? We know about the glass ceiling. How do you deal with like that quicksand, that feeling guilty, that feeling like your platform is not worthy of you, and then go forward from that?
Maybe I said it in like wrong way, because I don't feel like I'm not worthy of it.
Yeah.
It just felt like,
not that you do, but like other people.
yeah,
it's like
people
it's a woman
sometimes
thing.
do,
Yeah.
right? Like you feel like you're not, like, why me, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And that wasn't necessarily the exact feeling that I had. It was definitely similar.
Yeah.
But I think like a huge part of like why I even really wanted to start the team was there wasn't anything that was around me, right? Like there wasn't a team that I felt driven to go approach or, try and be a part of in my local community when I first started. And I was meeting all these women, we were all just like racing by ourselves. And it's the same thing that you see like when you go out on the road too. It's like all of us are like out there by ourselves. It's like, why aren't we all riding together? Like it seems very silly. But in that glass ceiling, like one of the things I tell my riders, like every race day, is a lot of riders, racers, and athletes in general, they put a lot of pressure on themselves to perform really well. And before every race start, I go to every single one of my riders and I say, you belong here, you deserve to be here, and you work to get here.
Dang, I need to say that every morning.
Like, this is, you're not here by chance, like we've all worked really hard to get where we are.
Yeah.
And I think women in particular work double to get where we are, and we have to fight those glass ceilings. And I work for some great companies, and they encourage me to fight for myself and fight for the projects and the things that I believe in. So I've been really lucky in that sense. It hasn't always been that way, but just kind of finding your voice and not backing down from it. Because even within the cycling community, and Kim can kind of attest to this too, is there is that misconception on social media, and some of the things that I've gotten back or heard through the grapevine is that I got injured 3 years ago and I'm not able to race really at all anymore. And people say, oh, you just have the team so you can get yourself stuff. And I said, if I wanted to get myself stuff, I'm capable and have those relationships that like, actually I get myself less so that I can give that support to these other women. And like, it's kind of like a weird joke within our team is they call me Oprah, because as soon as I get something and give it away, I'm like, oh, you need something? Okay, here you go. Like,
that's how Kim is too. That's why
exactly. Like, oh, you need a bike here. Like, just take it. I don't need it. So I think just really finding what fills you up and like makes you really happy and feel good about what you're doing, and just don't back down.
I love what you said about like you deserve to be
Yeah.
You all deserve to be here. Thank you guys for coming. Thank thank you to our panelists for speaking and putting themselves on the spot. And feel free to chat and mingle. We should clean up the space by 4-ish, so we've got 20 minutes. 20 minutes to drink all the champagne, eat all the snacks, and raffle. I'll raffle in a minute. I'll pull some raffle. If you guys haven't bought raffle tickets, you can. $5. And
Look at that nice shot of my pants.
yeah, there's your crowd shot. Yeah,
Panel people.
let's get a photo. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down. You guys, we got another donation, $50, another $13.99. Thank you guys so much. Donate. I can't wait to be posting the screenshots of everything when I gather all the money together from Facebook, Super Chats, Instagram, Patreon, all the platforms, and put it together in one total amount to let you guys know what today's event has raised. Thank you so much for being here today and joining us. Bye.